Have you ever had somebody tell you that it seems like you must have gotten out of the wrong side of the bed, or maybe they ask you, did you get out of the wrong side of the bed this morning? What they're really saying is, and I think you know this, they're saying that you seem to be a little bit more irritable than typical, a little bit more stressful. Maybe you're coming on a little bit too strong to other people and they're not accustomed to that. Now, some people, they come across strong all the time, but this is a little bit overboard even for you. And, you're wondering, why did you ask that? Okay, maybe you're not wondering. Maybe you sense it yourself that you're a little bit stressed. You're a little bit irritable relative to how you normally are. Well, that's an indication. That's the first indication. We've got 6 of these that you're facing Aspie burnout. Now, we've talked about this before, and there are a lot of indicators of burnout, but some of these we think are a little bit more subtle than others. You may not have noticed them. So we're taking time to go over some of the more subtle indicators that we are facing burnout as people on the autism spectrum, high functioning autism, or Asperger syndrome. Why do Aspies burnout in the first place? I think one of the reasons is because we tend to be perfectionists. Now, I got to say that I'm not a perfectionist. You can pick that out. You can notice that just by looking at the scene behind me. Things are not really in disarray, but they're not neatly organized. I see a computer screen sitting in the corner under the window there that's been there for weeks. Now, if I were a neatness freak, that wouldn't be there. And a lot of Aspies, they can't stand that. They want that thing gone. And if it's going to be somewhere, it's got to be put away. And everything within their environment has to be absolutely positively perfect. Now, that eventually is going to cause burnout because, well, the real world doesn't work that way. And sometimes even our world doesn't work that way. That is to say, things that we have control over, yeah, we keep arranging things and keep putting things in order. I'm kind of an order guy. I've got all of my shirts in order. I like spreadsheets. I like to organize things. For example, before I do a presentation, video like this, I take time and I do a little research, do a little background check. I put everything in order. I have show notes. You can actually see them on the right side of your screen there. I kind of look over here and see my notes. I like to be organized. I like to be prepared, but I'm not a neat freak. I don't go to that extent, but even so, even if you're not an absolute positive perfectionist, these things can be overwhelming after a while. And that's one of those very subtle signs of burnout. The second of 6 is, have you ever had this experience where your mind just won't turn off? It seems like your brain is just running all the time. Eventually, you're going to run out of gas. Now, try that with your car or whatever vehicle you drive. Just turn it on and let it run. And eventually, it's going to run out of gas and then it's not going to start. So you're going to have to get some more fuel, going to have to refuel. Sometimes I do that on purpose. We have a problem, or we used to have a problem with wasp in my shed where I keep my lawnmower. So put my lawnmower in there after I mowed the grass and I left it running for a while, hoping that the fumes would help eliminate the wasp. And it seemed to work. The things just run out if you don't put fuel in them. If you have limited fuel, or if you don't, refuel, you're going to run out. And that's something that Aspies often do, is we just don't shut down our mind because there's things that we're worried about, things we're thinking about. We're obsessing, ruminating, letting things go over and over in our minds. And again, I think everyone does that to some extent, or most everyone. But Aspies, sometimes we go overboard on this one, and we don't even realize that that's going to cause us to run out of gas. So what to do? Do things that allow your mind to relax. One of the things that you can do is whatever relaxes your mind. For example, does listening to music relax your mind? What kind of music do you like? What are your favorite groups? I like Southern Gospel. I like the 1960s beach music, the Beach Boys and some of those groups. Anything with close harmony from that era. What was that group? The Four Seasons. That stuff, man, it's way out of style, but it relaxes me. Another thing that I do is I like to take long walks when time is permitting. Now, I got up this morning. about 2 o'clock, which is when I nearly always wake up. I don't do that on purpose, I just wake up. And it's nice and dark outside, and there's no traffic. People have their critters, their dogs inside. So I go out and take a walk, middle of the night, nice and quiet and peaceful. I'm not encouraging you to do that, at least not in the middle of the night. But this time of year when it's hot outside and, temperatures around 80, 90 around here, now I don't want to take a walk. I mean, sometimes I will, but I'd prefer not to because I just don't like to be uncomfortable. But you go out at night, there's no traffic whatsoever, at least where I live. And it's so peaceful. All you can hear are the crickets and the interstate highway, which is about a mile away. But, basically your mind is just clear. So the point of all that is if your mind won't turn off and it's leading to burnout, like your engine won't stop running, you're going to run out of fuel, maybe turn off your mind by doing something that is relaxing. And those are two things that I do, and I'm sure that you have things that you do. And if you don't mind, you might want to put some of those things in the comments section, share those with other readers, so they will have some ideas from you as well as from me. All right, number 3. You just kind of lose interest in things after a while. That means your mind is just tired of doing the same thing over and over and over again. So if you're losing interest in something, that could be that you're doing too much of it, and maybe it's time to change. I tend to, this is a trait of Aspies, but I tend to eat the same thing every single day, with a few exceptions. I like to eat, I eat meat. Some days I eat hamburgers. Some days I eat fish, anything that's fatty, But other than that, everything I eat pretty much same on schedule every single day. And I eat pretty much the same quantity of that every single day. But if you narrowed it down to one food, say hamburger, and you eat hamburger every day, eventually your body's going to say, I've had enough hamburger. So you're just going to lose your taste for it. And then if you keep doing it, it's going to become almost repulsive to even think of eating hamburger. And that's all you eat. Think of any food. Same thing would apply. I suppose you could get tired of eating ice cream if you ate it every single day and nothing else. Maybe not, but then again, I think you probably would. But the point is that if you're getting tired of doing the same thing, losing interest in whatever it is you're doing, maybe you're doing too much of it. Maybe it's time to back off and do it differently or do something else or change, take your menu, so to speak, life's menu, and do some switching around. But that's one of the subtle signs that, you're burning out as an Aspie. You're losing interest in things. Another one is having what I would call a spontaneous or trigger temper. It's hard to say, trigger temper. And that is to say that things that normally wouldn't set you off, okay, now they do. That's an indicator that you are overwhelmed. I recall, speaking of hamburgers, I recall a year or so ago walking into a Wendy's restaurant. And you could tell who the manager was. That was the one who was throwing a hissy fit constantly. And I went back a few days later, a week or so later, and same manager, same thing, just mad all the time. This was a person who, I don't know who she was, but my best guess is this is a person who was just stressed out, probably should not be in that position. Well, I think all of us get that way sometimes, that we're worn out, We talked about our mind not turning off, getting out of the wrong side of the bed, and because of that pressure, we just start losing our cool easily. That's a subtle sign that maybe you're burning out as an Aspie because, we've got physical limits, right? I mentioned that I like to walk, and I can walk so far. I typically walk 2.5 miles a day, but I used to walk 7.5 miles a day. Took too much time, It was good for me, but it took too much time. But even then, I had my limits. I couldn't walk 100 miles. I would fall over. I just couldn't do it. And the same thing is true emotionally. We can only take so much, and then our brain, our mind, moves into shutdown stage. We just wear it out. So if you're in this position where you are having triggered temper, that's a good indication, at least in my experience, is a good indication that you're just overwhelmed. Maybe it's time to back off a little bit and do some of those things that relaxes your mind. Number 5 is minimize successes. By that I mean the things that you do well. You may be saying to yourself, that's not a big deal. I mean, that's no major accomplishment. So I did this thing and it was successful, and now I'm going to say, nah, it wasn't. And you're not talking to someone else. You're not pretending to be humble. This is internal talk where you're telling yourself that, this is not such a big deal after all. That's an indication that you're burning out because you're not even recognizing the things that you do well. Yeah, I know sometimes we do things poorly and we think we did them well, but they're not nearly as well as we thought they did. But other times, yeah, we really do things well. Everyone does something good. That is to say, do something that is just well done. I don't know what you do. Do you knit? Do you paint? Do you sing? Do you play sports? Do you exercise? Do you make accomplishments, reach your goals or whatever? And if you don't see that as a big deal, or see it as a deal, just see it as nothing at all, it's not really even an accomplishment, when actually it is. That's an indicator, in my mind, that maybe you're burning out as a person with Asperger syndrome. Then number 6, and this is something that I personally have never encountered, but some people say that they do, so I'm going to include it, even though most of what I talk about is based upon life's experience. So this isn't something that I experienced, but I have experienced listening to others who have life experience, and that is what I call serial sickness. So there's some people, it just seems like their immune system is not working properly. They get sick easily. They catch the bug, whatever the bug happens to be that's going around. And if you're getting sick more so than others seem to be getting sick, maybe that's an indication that your immune system is not working up to full par. And maybe that's an indication that, that you're facing fatigue as a person with Asperger syndrome. 2 rectangles on the screen. Let's keep talking if you want. All you got to do is click one of those 2 rectangles and the conversation will go on. As long as you want it to, because we have dozens of videos. If not, then thanks for stopping by and see you all next time.